Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on Elite Academy and welcome back to our daily issue analysis DIA mains. So I hope you all are following the topics which we are covering under DIA prelims. Very important topic, very important concepts which we are discussing from the current affair. So don't miss out. Okay. Now coming to today's video, we have again taken very important industry, very important topic which is important from the GS3 point of view, and you should know the understanding, you must have the understanding of this topic because this will also help you in understanding the global scenario, Indian economic scenario. So interlinked topic है, तो समझते हैं क्या है. Okay, so welcome everyone. So आज का टॉपिक है सेमीकंडक्टर्स एंड सेमीकंडक्टर्स. इफ वी हैव टू डिस्कस दैट व्हाई दे आर इन न्यूज़, multiple articles on and off you will find, like there was an article on October 10th, the fate of chips will determine the fate of nations. There was another article on 26 September, a push for the semiconductor industry. So ये सब क्यों पिक्चर में आ रहा है? Because you know that Russia Ukraine war, it has its impact on the supply of the semiconductors, and especially जो एक component है palladium and other components are there जिसकी availability is very important from the semiconductor point of view, manufacturing of semiconductor. Okay, so because of all these things, abhi countries are discussing that how we should manage this crisis, and the global supply chain is concentrated in few hands. It is highly concentrated. So keeping all these things in mind, now every country wants to push for the semiconductor industry, to have their own indigenous semiconductor industry. Okay, we'll see. There were other few more articles. So here, as you can see, countries like India also, cabinet approves modifications in a scheme for development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem. तो अभी हो क्या रहा है? हर कंट्री को सेल्फ सफिशिएंट बनना है, हर कंट्री को आत्मनिर्भर बनना है. So for that, everybody is looking for a system where they can boost their domestic industry, semiconductor industry, that to keeping in mind the disruptions which are happening in the global supply chain. तो एक बात तो ये है. So because of all these things, it was in news. There is a crisis going on. Countries are taking their own steps in order to boost the manufacturing. और भी बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो हम आगे डिस्कस करेंगे with respect to the opportunities, issues and all. Then we will get further better clarity. Okay. So before we understand in depth about semiconductors, we should first know what are semiconductors. Semiconductors होते क्या हैं? So these are the substances with conductivity and resistivity, जो कि conductors and insulators and they have their own specific electrical properties. So first thing you should know, this is the basic. These are the substances with the conductivity and resistivity. उनका अपना electrical properties होता है. In common language, they are also known as integrated circuits or the microchips. आप अगर if you are there from any remote part of the country, then you will hardly call it as semiconductor. आप ऐसे बोलते हो कि chip, माइक्रोचिप है, चिप है, आप ऐसे जाके दुकानों पे पूछते हो, राइट? सो दीज आर द एसेंशियल कंपोनेंट्स फॉर आवर डे टू डे लाइफ, the gadgets which we are using. So it has become integral part of our life. You take the example of electronics, appliances, computers, automobiles, planes, medical instruments, military weapons, home appliances and solar cells. So if you see around you that whatever devices we are using, everywhere you will find the role of ICs, semiconductors or microchips. They are there. But when it comes to understanding that semiconductor बनते कैसे हैं, so there is a raw material, there are raw materials required, which are, it is composed of pure silicon. It can be made up of germanium, gallium, arsenide, right? So at times ये तो आपकी pure material हो गया, but sometimes they are laced with the small amount of impurities like arsenic, phosphorus, boron, aluminium. So those who are from engineering background, हमारे फर्स्ट ईयर में एक सब्जेक्ट ही होता है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स, जिसमें हम सेमीकंडक्टर्स के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, पी टाइप एन टाइप. तो मुझे अभी अचानक याद आया. सो उसमें हम पढ़ते हैं कैसे एल्युमिनियम की और फॉस्फोरस की, इनकी अगर इम्प्योरिटीज़ लगाते हैं तो कंडक्टिविटी पे क्या असर पड़ता है. होप यू ऑल कैन रिकॉल, राइट? सो दिस इज़ द बेसिक, it is all about the basics of semiconductors, that what are they. Okay, so hope those who are not having any science background or engineering background, for them also I have tried to simplify it, that if you are going to write the answer, then what all components should be there in your answer. तो इसको रट लेना है, इसको याद कर लेना है, समझ लेना है, and this is pretty much part of your current affairs as well. तो हमारे सराउंडिंग में जो चीज़ें हो रही है we should know about it. Okay, so this is about what are they, what are these semiconductors. Now we will discuss the status and other aspects of semiconductor industry. Now let's analyze the status of semiconductor industry in India. So we have the first data that at present we are importing semiconductors worth rupees US dollar 2.38 billion. And if you have to understand in this way, then you just try to remember ki ye it is one of the majority, more than 98%, somewhere close to more than 90%, somewhere close to 100% we are importing our semiconductors. So India is importing the semiconductors currently, which is standing which is worth US dollar 2.38 billion. So we are importing semiconductor devices from countries like China, USA, Singapore, Japan, Taiwan. So just remember one or two countries, that would be also sufficient. But irony is that we are global leader in the semiconductor design, but we are importing majority for our semiconductors from outside. And there was another report, a study done by the Indian Electronics Semiconductor Association, that is IESA. They have found that only 9% of the semiconductor requirement is met locally. So अब आप सोच लो कितने gaps हैं. And there was a projection which was done by the Ministry of Electronics and IT, that is METI. They have analyzed that semiconductor demand in India would increase to somewhere around US dollar 70 to 80 billion by 2026. Why it is happening? Because there is a growing demand for digital devices, right? Growing demand for digital devices is there, electronic devices is there. So इससे बढ़ने वाला है. And also remember this way कि अगर आपको एक comparative analysis में बताऊं, so in 1990s the need of, or if you talk about the devices, it was zero. 1990s 1980 में भी ज़ीरो था, 1990s में भी ज़ीरो था. 2000 में एक डिवाइस आई थी जिसको DSL मॉडम बोलते थे, राइट. इफ़ यू आर फ्रॉम दैट एरा, देन अभी नया नया इंटरनेट आया था, तो DSL मॉडम्स वर इंस्टॉल्ड. In 2010 there were 4 devices with mobile phones also included as part of that. And in 2020s people are already talking about a smart refrigerator, smart ACs, smart TV. Now one person itself is having multiple devices. So just imagine that per household there are more than 20 to 25 devices that are connected, right? And this is exponential growth from 1 in 2000s to 25 in now. That is just 20 years. Within 20 years the need has grown exponentially. Now just imagine if we are talking about 5G, if we are talking about the internet speed somewhere in Gbps. So in future the number of devices will be somewhere between 100 to 150 billion. That is billion. अगर उतनी की रिक्वायरमेंट है तो डिमांड कितना बढ़ रहा है. सो डिमांड इंक्रीज होने वाला है डिवाइसेस का. Okay, so from this perspective also if you analyze, so you will be able to develop the understanding ki how exponentially the demand is increasing. Hope guys you are understanding this particular aspect what I wanted to convey. Now there was another report, and this report, it was a recent report on India's $1 trillion digital opportunity. तो इसमें ये एनालाइज किया गया. This report was also by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. They also found that India could create up to US dollar 1 trillion economy. Okay, 1 trillion of economic value from digital economy. So that is the expectation that कि हम digital economy से ही 2025 तक we can become 1 trillion economy. Okay, and which could support 50 to 60 million of workers. So this is showcasing the importance of India's electronic sector. It is showcasing the importance of the digital opportunity which India can have. So $1 trillion approach of economic value we can get. So this is the with respect to that why it is important, what is the status at present, and what is the projection. Now let's understand that why it is important, why we should focus upon the semiconductor industry और सभी अभी suddenly government का भी focus इधर हुआ है, why it is important, so what are the opportunities for India. So this understanding of why will help us in understanding the opportunities for India. So, if we analyze the first point, there is a global supply crisis. So, we need to tackle that. And that too, it is there because of the geopolitical issues. So, there is massive shortage of the semiconductors, and the overall supply chain has got affected, right? And the industries, especially including the electronic and automotive sector, इस पे बहुत असर पड़ा है because of the Russia Ukraine war. Or if you are following our दिया prelims, then recently FDPR का जो रूल है यूएस हैज़ इम्पोज. सो चाइना को अभी अपने जो चिप्स वगैरह बनाने हैं. हाउएवर यूएसए का तो अलग लॉजिक है. सो इफ़ यू हैव नॉट वॉच देन प्लीज़ गो थ्रू दैट वीडियो एज वेल. सो जियो पोलिटिकल टेंशन चल रहे हैं. देन आवर चाइना ताइवान क्राइसिस ऑल्सो. सो बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स देर इज़ अ ग्लोबल सप्लाई क्राइसिस इन दी सप्लाई चेन में डिसरप्शंस हो गए हैं. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज़ इट इज़ ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट एंड देर इज़ अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर इंडिया कि जो इंडिया का टारगेट है, इंडिया वांट्स टू बूस्ट, इट हैज़ ए एम्बिशियस प्लान टू ट्रिपल इट्स रेवेन्यू फ्रॉम इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंडस्ट्री. कहाँ से कहाँ? सो दे वांट टू इंक्रीज अप टू 300 बिलियन बाई 2026. एट प्रेजेंट इट इज़ 75 बिलियन. In 2021 it was 75 billion, and the target is that they want to export somewhere around, India wants to export somewhere around $120 billion of this amount. तो 300 बिलियन तक का टारगेट है कि पहुंचाना है, और उसमें से 120 बिलियन हमें एक्सपोर्ट करना है. सो दिस इज अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर इंडिया. इंडिया इज लुकिंग फॉर लीडरशिप. और हमने पहले भी देखा कि कैसे वी वांट टू जनरेट रेवेन्यू समवेयर अराउंड $1 trillion. Okay, so this is one component. Another is we want to safeguard, secure our strategic interest because of the application of semiconductors and usage of semiconductor in the critical infrastructure. It is very important. So today, more than 60% of the foundry market, means जो manufacturing markets हैं, manufacturing units हैं, और जो जहाँ पे production होता है, it is dominated by Taiwan. 60% is dominated by Taiwan. If you club South Korea and Taiwan, then it is somewhere more than 80%. So there is a kind of monopolistic tendency and hold is there, especially with respect to the advanced technologies. Or we know the importance of semiconductor industry in the electronic devices, military technology. So India basically wants to safeguard the strategic interest, especially the critical infrastructures related to space, defense, which can affect human lives. Okay, so the technologies are dependent upon these chips. So we want to secure and safeguard. Next is domestic consumption. So we have seen, I have also given the analysis that how the scenario was in 1980s, 1990s, 2000, 2020, how exponential growth is happening, and in future it is expected that domestic consumption itself of the semiconductor is going to increase. And today जहाँ 90s में zero था, 2000 में 1 consumption था device का, today in one family of 4 to 5 people, around 20 to 25 devices are based on the semiconductor. And also if we analyze that India, we are the second most populous country, large populous economy in the world. Then that point of view also our consumption is more. So we are consumption based economy. We are the economy जहाँ पे हमारा consumption ही ज़्यादा है. Okay. Next is the availability of cheap labor force, huge talent based. Basically, in nutshell, if you want to say, then cost effective and skilled labor force is available. And semiconductor design, they require large number of skilled engineers, and this is where India's strength lies. तो हमें इस पे capitalize करना है. So this is opportunity for India. Okay. So all these points, if we have to keep all these factors, these are in our favor, and we have to leverage this so that we can become the chip design capital. So in order to become the chip design capital of the world, our electronic manufacturing is growing, and the demand of the chips is also growing, and this demand can be met out by India. All ठीक है. तो हम डिज़ाइन के रेस्पेक्ट में तो we are leader, we can become the design capital as well. So these are the factors. If we follow this, then these are the opportunities for India, and this will help in establishing the value chain for semiconductors, which would ensure not only the कि एक इंडस्ट्री की ग्रोथ हो रही है बट ऑल्सो इट विल हैव इट्स ओन मल्टीप्लायर इफेक्ट ऑन द इंटायर इकोनॉमी. So this is important and these are the opportunities for India. Now we will understand the world distribution. So the chip making industry, as we know, is highly concentrated and there are big players like Taiwan, South Korea, USA. So these are the big players. USA का FDPR के हिसाब से आप जानते ही हैं. We have discussed about FDPR in our the prelims. So according to New York Times, they estimate that 90% of 5 nanometer chips, इसमें भी बहुत सारी साइजेस होते हैं ना, 5 नैनोमीटर, देन अकॉर्डिंगली वी हैव 30 नैनोमीटर्स. सो ऐसे करके बहुत सारे डिज़ाइंस होते हैं. सो 90% ऑफ 5 नैनोमीटर चिप्स आर मास प्रोड्यूस्ड इन ताइवान. सो दे आर मास प्रोड्यूस्ड इन ताइवान एंड देयर ऑल्सो इट इज़ प्रोड्यूस्ड बाई वन स्पेसिफिक कंपनी इज देयर, ताइवान सेमीकंडक्टर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी. सो इसी का डोमिनेशन है, ये डोमिनेट करता है वहाँ पे. Okay, so this is one aspect of the distribution, that what is happening. Now other aspect is that Taiwan, South Korea, if we take together, then they are occupying 80% of the global foundry market. Foundry मतलब क्या होता है? These are the facilities that manufacture chips that other companies design. ठीक है, तो एक मतलब मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बेस मान लो. So 80% of the things are coming from China and South Korea. And if we talk about the companies, then Samsung, Intel, SK, Micron, MediaTek, Nvidia, AMD, these are the some of the prominent companies. So companies भी पता होनी चाहिए अपने आंसर्स के लिए, एटलीस्ट एक दो कंपनी भी हमें पता है, then we can write proper answer. Okay, so this is about the world distribution. And this is it with respect to the world distribution. Now we will discuss about the issues and challenges. Now we will discuss about the issues which are there in the issues or the challenges in the semiconductor industry. So it will give us a holistic understanding. So the first issue is related to the issues of power and water shortage. So क्या है कि जो हमारी semiconductor industry है उसको continuous power चाहिए, उसको continuous water supply चाहिए, and here the water requirement is not कि एक normal water चाहिए, इसको pure water चाहिए होता है. So if we talk about the production of the silicon chips, then it requires precision, it requires uninterrupted power supply and water supply, and even if there is just few seconds gap or the mismatch or the supply disruption is just of few seconds also, it can cause multi-million-dollar losses. And in India we know the frequent power cuts are common. So ये investors के लिए भी एक problem है, और जो यहाँ पे domestic industries हैं, for them also it is one of the challenge. So this is how you should write the analysis. Simply writing power and water shortage will not help. You need to write the analysis. जो मैंने discussion दिया है आपको, जो मैंने analysis की है, ये अगर आप लिखेंगे then you will get the marks. Okay, so that it is called as depth in our answer writing. Coming to the capital industry aspect of the industry, so semiconductor industry or the display manufacturing, it is very complex and it is a technology intensive sector. Huge capital investments are required. रिस्क ज़्यादा होता है, जेस्टेशन पीरियड्स ज़्यादा होते हैं, पे बैक पीरियड लंबा होता है, एंड रैपिड चेंजेस होते हैं टेक्नोलॉजी में, जिसकी वजह से ये इंश्योर कर पाना कि रेगुलर कैपिटल, रेगुलर इन्वेस्टमेंट मिले, दैट इज़ डिफ़िकल्ट. सो इट इज़ हाईली कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रोसेस. ओके, एंड डिज़ाइन सॉफ्टवेयर जो चाहिए होते हैं, पेटेंटिंग के प्रोसेस जो हैं, अगर कोई बना रहा है, कोई डिज़ाइन कर रहा है, सो उसको अपनी इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स, आईपी प्रोटेक्शन भी देखना है. चिप फैब्रिकेशन मशीन्स चाहिए, सेटिंग अप ऑफ फैब्रिकेशन फैक्ट्रीज, असेंबलिंग, टेस्टिंग, मार्केटिंग, पैकेजिंग, ये सारे कंपोनेंट्स होते हैं. सो आई हैव टोल्ड यू लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, बट इफ़ यू आर एबल टू रिमेंबर इन द लाइफ साइकिल अप्रोच पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, देन जस्ट रिमेंबर फ्यू पॉइंट्स कि कितना कुछ चाहिए होता है, एंड इट इज़ capital industry intensive industry. If we talk about the third issue, then limited reserve of strategic minerals is there. So नीति आयोग ने भी ये analyze किया that the strategic minerals or the metals have limited reserves in our country, and thus we fall under the deficit category. For example, even though India is 100% import dependent on lithium, even the supply risks is marginally above the threshold. India is just at the moderate supply risk of cyclone owing to the difficulties in the, we don't have any aspect, we don't have any other component of substitute, like substitute नहीं है अपने पास. ठीक है. सो नीति आयोग ने भी ये एनालाइज किया कि भाई लिमिटेड रिजर्व्स हैं स्ट्रैटेजिक मिनरल्स के अपने पास. ओके, सो दिस इज वन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ इट. Next is import dependence. As we have discussed in the starting itself, that more than 90% or somewhere close to 100% only we are importing our chips. और हमने आगे भी डेटा दिया है कि only 9% of our requirement according to the that report, that data which we saw in the starting, that only 9% हमारी domestic needs, domestic need supply से ही हमारी needs fulfill हो रही हैं. So import dependence is there. ऑल्सो देर इज़ टफ ग्लोबल कॉम्पिटिशन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर हम यूएस का चिप्स एक्ट की बात करें, इट एम्स टू प्रोवाइड्स इंसेंटिव्स टू द कंपनीज हु आर सेटिंग अप सेमीकंडक्टर एंड एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजी फैक्ट्रीज इन यूएस. सो यूएस में लोग ज़्यादा जाएंगे या हमारे पे जाएंगे? सिलिकॉन वैली ही वहाँ पे नाम ही है. सो द टोटल outlay of, if we say 53 billion, it is there, and it is 5 times India's PLI scheme. जो हमने स्कीम देखा, the CHIPS Act, which is attracting the investors to open the factories and advanced technologies का manufacturing base in USA. So there the total outlay budget, the support is itself of US dollar 53 billion. And recently Indian government has started supporting through PLI scheme, production linked incentive scheme for semiconductors, which is just 10 billion. सो कहाँ यूएसए कहाँ इंडिया, तो वो डिफरेंस रहेगा. दैट्स वाई वी हैव टफ ग्लोबल कॉम्पिटिशन एज वेल. सो दीज वर सम ऑफ द इश्यूज. वी विल डिस्कस फ्यू मोर. नाउ लेट्स डिस्कस द अदर सेट ऑफ issues. So the next is lack of semiconductor fabs. So India, we have already discussed that we are lacking in the establishment of semiconductor wafer fabrication units. So fab units उसको बोलते हैं, semiconductor fabs. And this is due to the weak ecosystem and shortage of the resources, as we have already discussed, as compared to the more competitive bases like China, Vietnam. उनके पास ऐसे bases हैं, so they are able to develop the semiconductor fab units. Also, till now we are facing and struggling with this problem of weak R&D ecosystem. So the chip technologies, they are heavily driven by intellectual properties. सो जो भी डिज़ाइन करता है उसको IPR चाहिए ही चाहिए. सो इफ़ इंडिया इज़ इन्वेस्टिंग इन चिप मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटीज़ और द चिप मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, इंडिया ऑल्सो नीड्स टू इन्वेस्ट इन IP प्रोटेक्शन और IP प्रोडक्शन फॉर द फ्यूचर टेक्नोलॉजी सॉल्यूशंस. तो ये जो फ्यूचर टेक्नोलॉजी सॉल्यूशन है, इट कैन बी क्वांटम टेक्नोलॉजी और समथिंग दैट कुड प्रूव अ सब्स्टिट्यूट फॉर सिलिकॉन लाइक 2D टेक्नोलॉजीज. ठीक है, तो ये ध्यान रखना है कि हमें R&D सिस्टम इकोसिस्टम को हम कैसे इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं. वी आर गिविंग गुड प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ IPs, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टीज. Another problem is of inadequate logistics and absence of proper waste disposal. So this is the problem, and it has further increased the poor state of production. And the last one is, till now the fiscal support was not very encouraging. However, slowly, gradually from last 1 year, 1.5 years, the production linked schemes, the production linked incentive scheme, design linked incentive schemes, they from the government side, it is helping the semiconductor industry. So ye broadly 9 issues थे which we have discussed. Now quickly we will take a look at the steps which are being taken, government measures. तो क्या क्या measures लिए गए हैं एक बार we will understand. So the measures taken by the government, these are these. So India has started a semiconductor mission, and it has been started basically to establish that India will become a reliable market or reliable source. तो इसके थ्रू जो है वी वांट टू बिकम अ रिलायबल सेमीकंडक्टर सप्लाई चेन, इंक्लूडिंग द रॉ मटेरियल, द केमिकल्स, द गैसेस, द प्रोडक्शन इक्विपमेंट्स. तो वो हम करना चाहते हैं इसके थ्रू. देन वी हैव अनदर स्कीम फॉर प्रमोशन ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कंपोनेंट्स एंड सेमीकंडक्टर, जिसका नाम है स्पेक्स. So what SPECS is focusing upon? It is focusing upon manufacturing of electronic components and semiconductor. In 2021 itself, December, just almost it is less than 1 year also. So India announced the production linked incentive scheme, which is also known as the PLI scheme, or called Semicon India. So here India has announced roughly US dollar 10 billion डॉलर का सपोर्ट, जो हमने पहले भी देखा है. ठीक है, इट विल गिव बूस्ट टू सेमीकंडक्टर एंड डिस्प्ले मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इन इंडिया. And Vedanta, Foxconn is one of the successful applicants of the production linked schemes for semiconductors. So PLIs का support Vedanta use कर रहा है, Foxconn use कर रहा है. Then it has been also announced that fiscal support will be given through DLIs, that is design linked initiative scheme. Okay. To drive the global and domestic investment related to design, softwares एंड IP राइट्स एक्सेट्रा. तो वहाँ पे डिज़ाइन लिंक्ड स्कीम भी है, DLI भी है. चिप टू स्टार्टअप प्रोग्राम वेयर ऑलमोस्ट 85,000 इंजीनियर्स विल बी ट्रेंड टू वर्क इन सेमीकंडक्टर इकोसिस्टम. चिप टू स्टार्टअप्स प्रोग्राम. ओके, सो चिप टू स्टार्टअप प्रोग्राम मतलब कि 85,000 इंजीनियर्स को ट्रेन किया जाएगा एंड दे विल बिकम एसेट फॉर द कंट्री, एसेट फॉर द स्टार्टअप. सो दैट स्टेप हैज ऑल्सो बीन टेकन अपॉन. Now we will discuss about certain other steps. So what are those steps? Let's have a look. So these are the India's first semiconductor production plant is coming up in Gujarat. So this is coming up with the help of Vedanta. So यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, नहीं Vedanta वाला next example हम discuss करेंगे. So here the government here we will see first. Okay, so here what is happening? The mining conglomerate Vedanta and Taiwan ka Foxconn, they are going to invest somewhere around rupees 1.54 lakh crore. Not important, but you just remember that Vedanta and Foxconn together, they have come together to set up India's first semiconductor production plant in Gujarat. So that is the first point. Second point is, two other projects also have been announced. First one is this $3 3 billion plant in Karnataka is coming up, and it is being set up by the international consortium ICMS. Okay, so ये क्या है, अबू धाबी बेस्ड एक वेंचर है और इसराइल का है. सो जस्ट रिमेंबर इंटरनेशनल कंसोर्शियम ऑफ ICMS. तो ये लोग एक $3 बिलियन का प्रोजेक्ट, एक प्लांट कर्नाटका में लेके आ रहे हैं. ऑल्सो ऑन द सिमिलर लाइन्स 3.5 बिलियन प्लांट इज कमिंग अप इन तमिलनाडु बाई सिंगापुर's IGSS वेंचर्स. तो ये तमिलनाडु में आ रहा है. सो लाइक दिस प्रोजेक्ट्स आर कमिंग अप and government is also providing fiscal support. Companies are taking up their they are working and they are pushing themselves for more cutting edge chips, technologies which are used in computer. Okay, so like this the ecosystem is changing, be it with respect to the finances, be it with respect to the manufacturing, IP protection, everything. So जो हमने issues discuss किए हैं, to some extent these issues के लिए हमने step बढ़ाना शुरू कर दिया है. So this is it with respect to the measures taken. So till now what all we have seen a lot of things. We have seen in starting the status, semiconductor, why it is in news. Then we have seen opportunities for India. We have seen the status with the help of data. Then global, what is the scenario globally. We have discussed issues and measures taken. With this, if you have holistic understanding, then you don't need anything. So this is it for today's video. We will meet tomorrow in our Diya prelims. Okay guys, so then take care, see you tomorrow, and revise very well. Without revision nothing will happen. Make use of our handwritten notes which we are providing in the Telegram channel. So take care guys, bye bye, see you.